In the name of Almighty Allah, the most merciful and compassionate, the King of Kings and the unconditional lover, whom He guides, no one can misguide, and whom He falls astray, no one can guide. Dear students, you remember we started discussing winter task. We completed question number first, that was about the letter and application, and today we are going to start another topic, and that is story, and we will try to complete and cover the composition, that you people call it composition, and that is we say it is essay. First of all, we are talking about story. What is a story? Dear students, composition of a paragraph or two paragraphs where there is didactic or moral theme. From this story, it is usually a fable and of the characters, sometimes of animal, sometimes like frog, and sometimes human being, that we take a theme from that, like moral and didactic, etc. Dear students, the topic in winter task, that is a foolish stag. You see, this is the picture, right, of that foolish stag. You can see that. And how we start a story. Dear, story is having three parts. The first one is called rising, and second is called climax, and the third is called falling part of the story, right? And keep in mind that a rising part of the story, right, and this we introduce the characters. And the first one we introduce the character, and in climax there you will see all these points. In the climax, what happened, that there comes the confusion, the fighting, right? The people who are watching the story or reading the story, they are confused what will happen next. It is called climax, the peak point of the story, of any story. You might be watching a movie, that is also a story. So in that story, when you come to know that what will happen next or what will be the result, this point is called climax. And later on, where there comes the falling action, first one is rising action, second one is called climax, and third is falling action. In the falling action, there comes the resolution. There is a kind of solution, right? And we call it result of that story. Dear, but in writing the story, you have to keep in mind that the outlines are given usually, right, from the Peshawar board's side. So the outlines, they are in simple present tense. You call it present indefinite tense, right? And that, the headings are usually in the simple present tense, or you call it present indefinite tense. Dear students, outlines, you can read that number first one is a pool of clear water. The title of the story is a foolish stag, right? And that is actual story you have to write down. But the outlines you have to keep in mind, that is a pool of clear water. Second one is a stag sees his reflection. And third is admires his horns, dislikes his legs, horns remaining, the hounds running towards him. And what happens with the stag, that the stag here in the outline you have to say runs for his life, and hounds caught in bush. What happened then? Overtaken by the hounds, dying thoughts. And then moral is that all that glitters is not gold. Dear students, the question is that in outlines, the tense is the present tense, but in the actual story you have to use simple past tense, past indefinite tense, right? We call it simple past or past indefinite tense. All right. So these, you can see the outlines of the story, how the student will develop their own story, right? That is, it depends on the person who writes it. Here you can see the story, how it is developed already. For example, in the outline number first, writing a story depends on the person's vocabulary, how rich he is in vocabulary, he can develop the story. Like the first, outline here is a pool of clear water. So here in the story, in the actual story, you can see that the title is a foolish stag, and then a stag was once drinking water at a pool. You might say that a stag was once drinking water, was drinking clear water in a pool, or was drinking water at a pool. What happens then? This is, dear students, the beginning of the story, right? A student might say, once upon a time there was a stag, lived in jungle, etc. Or once upon a time nearby a pool there was a stag. Or once upon a time there was a stag and he was very thirsty, right? These can be the beginning sentence of the story. And the second outline, you see, a stag sees his horns or his reflection. So here it is developed that he saw his own reflection in its clear water. I mean, in the pool's clear water, right? In its clear water. So, dear students, the second sentence is, and you see in every sentence we are using simple past tense. You call it past indefinite tense, right? So, past indefinite tense is used, for the action started and completed in the past, right? So it is a story which is based on the experience. That is why we consider it in the past tense. The simple past tense, we call it past indefinite tense. Next, outline number third, admires his horns and dislikes his legs. What happens? That he admired, past tense. He admired, second form of the verb means that it is in the past. He admired his beautiful horns, but he did not like his lean, thin legs. Suddenly, he saw a pack of hounds running towards him. Pack of hounds, dear students. So, pack of, hound, it is collective noun, hound, right? A pack. So, we call it use it for the group of dogs, right? He ran into the jungle to save himself. Now he is running, and definitely, a person runs with the help of his feet, right? And the feet or legs that he did not like. What happens? That the thin and ugly legs that he did not like very much, right? That those legs helped him to run away, right, from the hounds. And what are hounds? The hunting dogs. They are the hunting dogs, right? What happened next? Towards him, runs for his life. Horns caught in the bush, overtaken by the hounds, and dying thoughts, right? What happens here, dear students? That his legs soon carried him far from the hounds, but his horns were caught fast in a bush, right? Here, it is called climax. What happens after this? You see, the thin legs which were disliked by the stag, those thin and ugly legs helped him to run away. But what happens next? But his horns were caught fast in a bush. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't free himself. So before long, the hounds caught hold of him, and now he felt that his ugly legs were of great help to him, but his beautiful horns were the cause of his death. Dear students, you see in the outlines and you can see the developed story. You have to follow the same pattern, and a student might write, a bit change as it is. You should not repeat it again and again. But if a student is a bit weak and he cannot develop it, so he can write down the same developed story as well. Dear students, at the last you see moral. What is the main theme of the story? That is, all that glitters is not gold, right? In Urdu, students call it har chamakti huyi cheez sona nahi hoti. So, dear, what was looking like a gold for the stag, it was the horns, right? But what was actual gold for that stag? It was his thin legs. But he did not know that. Dear story, a foolish stag, right? And then the outline, and this is the foolish stag is actually the title of the story. Understand, dear students? And after the title, what are we having? That, the foolish stag, right? This is the title, the foolish stag, and then a story, and then moral. These are very important to write down. Anyways, dear students, I hope you might have learned, how to write down story, and I hope that you will develop the story in your own words. Thank you.